All right, good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council 2025 Budget Review Session, Night 4 of 4 to order. If you'd please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Clerk Snyder, if we can have the roll call, please.
Alderman Nichols. Here. Alderman Eisenach. Here. Alderman Sevenik.
Here.
Alderman Perkins. Here. Alderman Lewis is absent. Alderman Marshall.
Here.
Alderman Grotti. Here. Alderman Rapella.
Here.
7 are present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item D, which is public comments on any matter of concern to the city. You have 5 minutes. We just ask that you step up to the podium, state your first and last name, address, and you have 5 minutes to speak. And we will get a mic up to the podium in just a moment here. Does anybody in the gallery wish to speak this evening? Thank you. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, we'll move past public comment and we'll move on to E, which is the police department. So we have Chief Thorne and several of our amazing staff from the City of Menasha Police Department here to give a presentation on their budget. So I'll hand it over to you all.
Good evening and welcome. I just want to say thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you for your support over the past year and most recently with our contract negotiations. Certainly means a lot to the members of our department as we move into 2025. New schedule change, great benefits, and great wages to match. So thank you for your support first and foremost. Tonight, joining me is our command staff, and I'd like to just reiterate that the members of our command staff are here voluntarily because they support our police department and they support our community. First things first. So over the course of the past year, our police department certainly has been busy. We've had a number of different situations where we've needed to call out the Winnebago County SWAT team. That is a joint partnership where we have members on the SWAT team, as well as other type events where we've had traffic crashes, fatal traffic crashes, where we've, again, relied on our partnerships with our area departments to assist our community. Our department in overall calls for service in a reflection of 2023 to 2024 has increased overall. And we continue to provide excellent police services to the City of Menasha. Here's our organizational chart as a little bit of a refresher. So first and foremost, the citizens of our community are at the top of our organizational chart. Our police commissioners, they are representations of our department, and we have 5 of them. Further down the list, we have the police chief, deputy chief Handcheck, Investigative Lieutenant Sawyer, Lieutenant Matt Albrecht, and Lieutenant Spiegel, who are representing our patrol lieutenants tonight. We also have a few members of our department, our patrol staff, lieutenants that are not here. Today was a big day for our agency. We actually had our department accreditation wrap up, and we received some great news that we will be likely accredited moving forward for the next 3 years. We have 33 sworn patrol officers. 5, this fluctuates a little bit, 4 to 5 community service officers, and an auxiliary unit that sometimes wavers a little bit with our staffing levels. Goals for 2024. Top priority is maintain full staffing, and this is not different from our local municipalities as well. So full staffing is very important to us. We do a lot of creative things with your support as well. Schedule changes, implementing a variety of different things. Wellness initiatives are very important to us. But maintaining full staffing levels to continue to provide quality police services to the citizens of Menasha is important to us. Our second goal was evaluating our services that we provide the community. And we do this by identifying the services that we currently provide Menasha, and as we saw earlier this year, providing a recommendation to you folks and the community for looking at our staffing levels to increase based on needs. Earlier this year, we implemented our facility dog, CODA. and the picture on the far right is CODA with SRO Heinen. We had Officer Geller and Officer Jorgensen, School Resource Officer Jorgensen, a number of years ago that actually piloted this program for our department and were the keynotes in our area and the nation in terms of having a facility dog integrated within the school system. So we are glad that we have a facility dog back in the community. There was a tremendous amount of support from you guys as well as our community through donations to add this member to our department. We negotiated our police contract. That was a huge undertaking by not just myself, but also City Attorney Struve, Mayor Hammond, Alderman Grotti, and you folks. So greatly appreciate that. Our wellness and mental health support is extremely important to us as a department. The average age life expectancy of a police officer is mid-50s. So any ways that we can be creative to try to extend the life expectancy of our sworn personnel post-retirement is important to us. And last but not least, Wiley accreditation that we spoke of, or that I spoke of earlier. So today, again, we have we are one of 44 agencies, approximately. That number may have fluctuated a little bit, but one of 44 agencies in the state. There are 600 total agencies that are in the state of Wisconsin, and we are one of them that are accredited. And what that means is we have to maintain 262 of the best practice standards to maintain that proficiency level. So we had assessors at our department the last 3 days looking at all different types of aspects of our organization and evaluating us. And we received fantastic marks. So in the next month or two, we will end up receiving our reaccreditation status, and we'll bring that forth when we receive that. Another accomplishment for 2024, in May, Officer School Resource Officer Josh Gallagher was presented the Protect and Serve of the Year award. He was the only school resource officer recognized by the Green Bay Packers for this event. And it was based on his just being a fantastic school resource officer. Josh worked with and continues to work with a number of juveniles, students, and really promotes our department in the school system. The other really important thing that Josh did and why he was selected, one of the reasons why he was selected was we had a 13-year-old boy with terminal brain cancer, and Josh, all the boy wanted to do was become a police officer for the city of Menasha. Josh worked with our area law enforcement agencies, a number of different governmental entities as well as private businesses, and made this boy's dream come true. And so January 5th of 2023, he was officially sworn into our department as an honorary police officer. And ultimately, in January 2024, he succumbed to cancer. So Josh, with his tremendous involvement in the school system and with our department, Josh was recognized by the Green Bay Packers as the only school resource officer in the state to receive this award. Another accomplishment for us, Officer Kate Lynch, one of our brand new officers who's still on probation, was selected by Fox Valley Technical College to be in their promotional video. Kate was one of 3 officers, the only 3 officers in this area to be selected for their video. And Kate is a natural when it comes to just the ability to be herself and be a fantastic representative of our police department, which is why she was selected.
We are a cornerstone agency when it comes to the Handle with Care program in the county. The implementation of the Handle with Care program was a collaborative effort between myself and Jennifer Skolaski from the Winnebago County Department. This program works to bridge the gap between the PD and Menasha Joint School District. A Handle with Care notice is completed every time an officer has contact with a school-age child within our community. These incidents are all-inclusive when contact is made, from emotional or physical abuse to reports of homelessness. What this program does for us is it promotes emotional support, early intervention, and fosters a strong relationship between the police department, the school district, and the families within our community. Overall, this program ensures that students affected by trauma are met with understanding and resources to help them cope and succeed in school. So with the implementation of this project, we are also being looked at as a cornerstone, and other communities within not only our county, but also outside of our county are utilizing our framework for implementation of their projects as well. So below their 2023 to 2024 school district, there was 179 reports, and currently right now we're running at 137. So again, these are basically, we're facilitating the communication between early intervention of making the incidents that PD is aware of, the school district is aware of, and then counseling services and or that facilitation of some other things are happening at a rapid pace.
Another accomplishment for this year was the utilization of the Winnebago County Spirit Funds. And I'd like to highlight Alderman Nichols and her support on this from her involvement with the Winnebago County Board. We were able to receive upwards of $180,000 to support our continued safety needs in the downtown area with downtown related events. And these traffic barricades is certainly something that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to likely initiate for our community. But this is so important in today's day and age when we look at different things that are happening in our world. We also examined our values and our principles. So our values: innovation, efficiency, respect, and integrity, and teamwork. Principles for our organization: a number of years ago, Chief Steica had implemented a LEAD initiative, which is a procedural justice concept, which stands for listen, explain with equity and dignity. And we hold ourselves accountable to that standard for all of our staff members. In 2024, Officer Cook was recognized and was a recipient of the LEAD Award for her involvement in actually de-escalating a situation involving a fellow police officer not with our organization. The officer was at an escalated state through a citizen contact, and Officer Amy Cook stepped in, overrode the officer, and completely de-escalated the situation. She was recognized by our department as well as the family for her involvement with that incident. The other on the right is Officer Braden Heckert. Braden started with our department approximately a month ago. He was one of our formerly one of our CSOs, or community service officers. And Officer Kate Lynch, she is also one of our newer hires. She will be completing probation here soon. She continues to do great things.
The next few slides kind of outline some of our accomplishments. There's many, many photos here of things that we accomplished through 2024. I promise I won't go through every single photo with you, otherwise you'll be here late tonight. But many of them, as you continue to go from photo to photo, there's a variety of people and many different events that we were able to participate in, not only with community outreach groups, but so many events that our City of Menasha Park and Rec department offers that we've been able to continue building upon every single year. Over the last 5 years, our special events keep increasing and increasing, and we create more events. We reach out to different groups such as the diversity director through Menasha High School, in partnership with our SRO program, Special Olympics, the Community First Free Fishing Day, numerous parades, just trying to be out everywhere. We could probably have 6 more slides of all the different events that we do. But it's been a fun year, it's been a busy year, and the biggest event that we hosted this year is our 3rd annual Menasha Night Out. It's always known as National Night Out everywhere else you go, and this year was so far the best because we kind of changed it. We changed it into Menasha Night Out instead of National Night Out, and partnered with every single department in the city to make it bigger and better. National Night Out is historically about law enforcement and community, but it wasn't just about us, and definitely the community enjoyed it much more because we were all there. So we'll be back out at Barker Farms Park again in 2025. We have many more ideas to even make it bigger and better, which I didn't think was possible since last year, but we do. So we hope you'll stop out as well.
some more accomplishments, and this is really a testament of our DPW staff, Thad Brown and his crew. Earlier this last month, they finalized and finished up our front parking lot, and there were some extreme safety concerns, and it's hard to tell with that picture with the lights on, but the picture on their photograph on the left, there's substantial cracking in the sidewalk area, slip, trip and fall hazards, where from a liability side of things, it was important that they looked at and completed that project. So we're very appreciative that they finished up our front parking lot. It looks fantastic. There are some additional lights that were also added in the front of our building, which illuminates the overall front, adding some additional safety features for us and those that come into our building. As you can imagine, people that come to the police department are frequently there for security related needs. So having that area well lit is important to us. We also continued to change over our security system within the department. The photograph on the left is of a keypad entry that's circa 1970s. And so really one of the safety features for us is the quick access to gain entry into certain parts of the police department when we need to get into them. Updating our camera card, or excuse me, our card reader system allows us to have continuity with all of our door entry and exits, specifically in our cell block area, and just entering the front doors of the police department. Coming into this budget, I wanted to illustrate to you guys that we are strong stewards of public funding, and we look at how we can save costs at all measures, and we've done that historically, and I wanted to showcase those. Last year, we changed over our parking enforcement program from a program that was called T2, and we started utilizing tracks, and that was an $8,000 cost savings to our department and the community. Officer Nick Olzak has been a member of our organization for 25 plus years, 27 years. The exact date I'm not sure, but Nick has this knack and the ability to be able to program different software that we utilize. And it's not just us, it is other law enforcement agencies in our area and throughout the state. Those same programs that other organizations offer are tens of thousands of dollars, and Nick provides those to us at zero cost. So we really, truly don't know what the cost savings from Nick's involvement is. Our partnership and collaboration with our school district, our SRO program, they pay 75% of our SRO wages, which is huge. Last year we entered into an agreement with the school district with our crossing guard program, and in 2023 we saw a reduction in wages for our crossing guards of $12,000. This year we're reducing it another $5,000. Last year we went to leasing versus purchasing our unmarked police vehicles, and there was $131,000, and Lieutenant Albrecht will explain that a little bit further later on in the presentation. And 2020, the end of this year, going into next year, we're going to continue to update all of our cell cards in our squads. And what that means is our computers that we have, we obviously need internet access. And by just switching from a Cradle Point access to a cell card network for 2024 and 2025 will be a $3,000 savings. Let's look at budgets versus actuals. So this year, approximately, we're about $172,000 under budget. Wages will be approximately $15,000 under budget. Salaries will be approximately $53,000 under budget. That is currently because we are short a few positions. Conversely, when we're short, our overtime goes up, and we'll look at our overtime costs in the next slide, I believe. But we're currently a few officers short. So we also had an additional retirement in January or February of this year. Officer Sarah Swenson retired. And like most things, when we have critical incidents, those are unplanned events for our police department. So it's really hard to try to factor in what our overall costs for overtime will be. Our health insurance is about $55,000 under budget. FICA is $10,000 under budget, and retirement is $28,000 under budget. We had anticipated a retirement this year, which will likely take place next year. Auxiliary unit, we continue to have wavering staff levels for our auxiliary unit, and so we're about $8,000 under budget for that. Our vehicle repairs are $4,000 over budget, and Lieutenant Albrecht will discuss that in a few later slides. Our CSO program, $4,000 under budget. Crossing guard program, $6,800 under budget, and jail animal lockup, our jail charges and animal charges are about $2,000 under budget. Looking at our overall overtime costs from a historical perspective, so over the course of 12 to 13 years, our overall salaries increased about 30%. And we've maintained that same, approximate same overtime amount as a police department. In terms of overtime specifically, it's about 14% that's unplanned events, 5% approximately forced related overtime where we're forcing employees. Training is about 13%, and mag unit, where our mag unit involvement is, which is reimbursed, is about 7%. I'll throw an asterisk on the forced overtime component of it just due to the fact that we have some unscheduled and unplanned overtime that is taking place now with some of our staffing levels. Do you have a question?
Alderman Sevenick does.
Yep. When you're speaking of this particular slide, are you talking about non-represented individuals or overall?
Overall.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Grady.
Thank you. Also, Chief, with the new contract, overtimes as they wanted it is going to be reduced. And with the attorney and everything that you guys went through and worked on with the mutual understanding, looking at July and seeing where that falls, I think it'll be hard now because you're understaffed, so you can have overtime in the first quarter. But I think by maybe even the end of the year or whatever, that is where the big savings with this new scheduling contract should
absolutely. So we're hoping that by we're hoping, cross our fingers, that by mid 25 we are back to our full staffing levels, and we will then begin to see where that overtime from vacancies will level off, and that's something that is noted in the presentation as we go through here, that hopeful savings with the new schedule change. Earlier this year, we had a presentation that focused on our staffing levels, and throughout that presentation, we discussed a lot of the different caveats in terms of what we respond to, our crime rates, just overall impact to the department. Last year and in years past, we provided that information throughout our budget presentation. And so because we already discussed that earlier this year, I'm not going to focus a lot of our time on that. However, I did want to bring this back just a little bit and show that from a community assistance perspective, we are seeing an increase in overall calls for service. So the numbers are reflective of 2023, and when we're done with this year, the numbers will obviously be placed at 2024. But I'll tell you that the overall calls for service that our officers are responding to are tracking slightly higher than they were last year. In terms of field initiated and phone, when we look at comparisons from 2022 to 2023, we did see an increase. The number of calls that people are making to our police department or Winnebago County Dispatch that they're requesting our services versus the activities that our staff are going out and proactively doing, the calls that we're receiving are increasing. So I just wanted to share that. This is a further breakdown of what some of those calls are. And again, this was information that we had discussed earlier, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I just wanted to kind of bring it up again. And here's a further breakdown of field initiated versus reported. Again, field initiated, those are the activities that our staff are participating in a historical look back, and reported are the calls that people are calling our department for. Drug investigations, that is something that we continue to see. Drug usage, fentanyl. We're actually seeing a slight decrease in overall fentanyl usage, and we're getting back to some of the drugs that we haven't seen for a bit, crack cocaine, and some of those other ones. But these types of events, they happen in our community. Earlier this year, there was a significant drug investigation, drug bust that happened just down from the police department. And ultimately, due to collaborative efforts with our investigators, our officers, and the MEG unit, we were able to hold somebody accountable. That's what the lower left hand, depending upon where you're sitting, the lower left hand slide reflects, where a gentleman was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Last year, we were gracious enough to receive Highway 441 back, and the effects of that were 249 calls for service. Those types of calls add up. The involvement that our staff spend, the time that they spend on 441 is significant. And it's typically, as you can imagine, speeds 65, 70, 80, 90. We've had officers doing traffic enforcement on 441 where it's not uncommon for people to travel upwards of 100 miles an hour. So it's important that we maintain those efforts on the highway, but they do cause delays in other parts of our department and our community with providing services. Matt?
So this is always a topic I enjoy presenting on. A few years ago, we were able to deploy flock license plate reader cameras, and we're able to deploy Verkada traffic cameras at one intersection. Each year we've been requesting additional funding for expansion of these programs. However, we have been unsuccessful up until this year. I'm pleased to announce that there's some money still in the budget to expand our traffic camera program and continue with the flock cameras that we currently have. On this slide are a few success stories. What we found, especially this year, is a lot of our investigations are using both of them. They both have different uses, and our officers have had some very good success of using the systems in conjunction with each other to solve multiple crimes. Thefts, retail thefts, frauds, help crash investigations when it comes to the traffic cameras. So we continue to see how this technology has really helped our officers solve crimes that probably would go unsolved without this technology.
Looking at the budget for 2025 now. So we understand that, as I mentioned earlier, being good stewards of public funding and needing to meet the bottom line ultimately. These are some of the items that we had previously requested that ultimately were reduced to make the city budget. So I wanted to just showcase those. These are some of our areas that we had looked at fluctuations from 24 and 25 and where we had made certain budgetary cuts to make our overall budget. Wanted to kind of put a plug in here as well. So 2025, we had looked at a department-wide building or facility study, and that got pushed to 2026. And why that's very important to us is just overall the guts of the police department and looking at, do we want to continue at our existing facility? There are certainly needs that we have identified. We're the oldest full-time operating building in the city. We have 24-hour staffing and people that come to our department to request services from us. Last week we had a sewage backup and there was unsightly mess in our men's restroom. So those types of things are important to us as a police department and as an organization, and being one that's accredited, a professional organization, to look at how we continue to expand as an organization. 2025 goals. Again, very excited and very appreciative and gracious for your acceptance of our police and union contract. So we're looking at updating our patrol officer schedules, 3 12-hour shifts and ending on an 8-hour shift. Deputy Chief Hanchek has been working many, many hours to integrate that schedule into our existing staffing levels and moving into January 1st to get things up and running. We're looking at overall how we write our reports, how we draft our reports, and how our report writing process works outside of the police department. And an efficiency that we are looking at is introducing a program called Dragon Speak. And what that means is the ability for our staff to be able to dictate into a machine, something as small as this, and then that gets transcribed right in front of them. And so from an efficiency side of things, it speeds things up tremendously and is able to get reports to the DA's office, get reports out to our citizens, and if there are follow-ups that our officers need to work on, thefts, burglaries, those types of things, they're able to see those reports in real time in front of them, which is very important. The other important part of it, in terms of real time, being able to see that, what's in front of them, October 7th of 2023, we had an officer-involved critical incident. And when we have use of force incidents, the ability to be able to, for our staff to see the text and what is transcribed in front of them is very important from a report writing process, from a court process. Then they can see what they say. They can change narratives if they need to change what's drafted and or alter things as they move forward. So we're looking at the overall efficiencies of our report writing process. Maintaining full staffing. That has been a goal of our police department forever. And we continue to strive for full staffing. Last year, when we provided the budget presentation, we were excited to say we were full staffed. We also brought up that many of our area municipalities were not. I will share again the same sentiment. Many of our area departments are not fully staffed. They're sitting in the same position as we are. It's different now versus 15 years ago. We used to see 200 plus officer candidates that were lining up at the door to take our officer tests. It wasn't just our organization, it was every agency around here. Now we're seeing those numbers diminish down to maybe 15, 20 people that will take the test, and of the 15 and 20, we might have 2 that pass a background investigation. So times have changed. We have a great cadre of officers, and Deputy Chief Hanchek does a tremendous job at trying to expedite our hiring processes to be as efficient as possible and to be as progressive with maintaining our current staffing levels. Continuing our wellness initiative and implementing additional mental health support. So this year, we had a mental health professional come in post critical incident in 2023 and provide all of our staff members mental health support, which was tremendously needed. We are going to continue, as we have for many years, at looking at our wellness needs. Deputy Chief Hanchek earlier this year wrote a $200,000 grant for our wellness program through the COPS organization, and we unfortunately just found out within the last few days that we did not receive the grant. However, those are the types of things for our department and our community that are very important to us. We'd like to look at, and this gets into, earlier this year we had discussed our staffing levels, and a component of looking at our staffing levels and looking at overall needs as a department and the community was trying to identify what areas as an organization we can be creative with finding the sources of revenue to support an additional position or positions within our department. Later on this year, or 2025, I would like to come back to you to request that support in adding an investigative position. We are fantastic stewards of public funding, and we have presented a budget that's, we feel, is very stable, but we are able to support likely without any changes an additional position within our current department based on our current budget.
Alderman Severnick.
Could you go back. I guess I missed about the grant for for wellness. Who was that through?
It was through COPS, so it was a nationwide grant, and I don't remember how many $1 million were available. And just this week, we learned we were not selected. There was only 3 agencies in the entire state of Wisconsin that were selected: City of Green Bay, Eagle River, and Crawford County. So we did not receive it.
Okay. Were you given any insight as to why?
So I just learned on Tuesday that we did not receive it, and that was my first response back to them, asking why, how can I change, update, or improve for the next admission process. And I'm told they usually provide some insight, so I'm hoping sometime in the next month when they get back to me with those details.
And were those other departments part of the 40 that had accreditation?
I don't know about Eagle River or Crawford County, but I know Green Bay is not accredited.
Because last night we were told that's the important thing to have when applying for a grant, and obviously it's not. And I'm sad to hear that, so there must have been something, maybe it was our first time, maybe they applied 4 other times and finally got put on top of the list or something. But I would encourage you not to give up, because I know how important that is for your department, especially for yourself, that you've made it kind of a priority over the last 2-3 budget meetings we've had. So
Yes, the goal is to continue in hopes that we do receive feedback. It was the city of Green Bay who had received the $200,000. I don't know if it was the police department or if they had a specific professional grant writer. I worked with a grant writer as well to supplement and proof my project, and they approved because they do this for a living. So we'll keep trying.
okay. Well, thank you for your work in that. I mean, I have a feeling a year from now you might give the community some better news.
I hope so.
As the chief said before, the why behind the extra investigative spot. As technology advances, the complexity and the volume of digital data in the investigative realm grows, requiring specialized knowledge to efficiently analyze and interpret that information. An additional investigator will provide the expertise and capacity needed to keep up with the emerging tools, data sources, and security measures. This investment enhances the team's ability to stay ahead of technology developments and ensure thorough, accurate investigations and up-to-date case management.
Here's a look at our overall expenditures and just kind of a pie graph as to where everything lays out. Here's a look at our budgets over the years and dating back to 2012. So last year we had about a 5% increase. This year we have about a 3% increase. And again, we're very blessed to have the support of our school district to fund 4 of our school resource officers positions, 75%. 2023, just kind of another reminder that we had our vehicles in borrowing, and 2024 they were brought back out. Here's a look at some of our CIP type projects.
Alderman Sevenick.
I don't know how many people look at these council budget meetings, but I know that you had explained why it's 75% in the past and not 100, because I'm going to let you explain it.
In terms of the SRO program?
Well, yes, because we use those officers during off.
Correct.
But I prefer you.
Thank you. So the reason why the school district pays 75% of our positions during the summer months, so our SROs are in the school during school, and in the summer months they come back to the road. We have an agreement with the school district that says that the school district prefers The SROs utilize time off, those types of things during non-school related times. And our SROs, for the most part, are very cognizant of that. So in the summertime, they come back to the road, but frequently they will use the majority of their vacation during the summer months. So we're very lucky to have the program that we have. Some municipalities have, 50% funded by the school district. Some have 75 and some have more. So, but just overall, the impact to the school district and our partnership with the school is very important to us, and we're very grateful.
Thank you.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. You briefly mentioned the vehicle replacement budget line, and looking at the budget, there is a $26,000 decrease in the amount for 2025. So could you explain that, please?
I can. Would you like us to explain it now? Otherwise, it's explained. It'll come up in a few slides. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I promise. So, any other questions? Looking at our CAP projects, so police vehicles for 2025, police vehicles, our back parking lot fence, rather, we talked about that in the CAP, but just to highlight that again, the importance of that is really safety of our staff. There have been, and I was going to add a picture of it, but to be honest with you, I forgot to put it in. 2 weeks ago, there was a gentleman who was passed out and who was slumped over in the back parking lot of our police department, resting against our back door. So officers ended up having contact with him. He was cooperative initially. He ended up needing to go to jail. During the process of his transport, he became combative with our police officers and jail staff. So just thinking about totality, we certainly, the sworn members of our department have the ability and the skills to be able to, and the awareness to be able to protect ourselves in most circumstances, but not every member of our department has that ability. So the fencing for our department is very important. Our investigative and kitchen area, the investigative area hasn't been touched since the 70s. We have a very small area back there, and the carpeting is green. It's original. In fact, we're going to likely cut it out and frame it because it's amazing. It's coming back, yeah. So it'll be good to get that area a little bit further updated. And then I believe that's it for 25. 26, we have some, again, police vehicles, that's consistent. Leasing program, again, Alderman Nichols, Lieutenant Albrecht will touch on the leasing component in vehicles here in a few slides. Our elevators are set to be examined and or replaced in 2026. And the facility study we bumped from this next year to 2026 just based on overall budgetary needs as a city. Our wages, so for 2025, we're looking at decreasing our overall wages about $35,000. However, that is in a different line item, and the reason why that's being moved is due to our clerical staff positions and our cadet positions. Our salaries, we have an increase of $177,000, and that reflects increases for represented and non-represented members of our department, as well as cadets. It also includes the $3,000 FLSA requirement for our canine handlers that we brought up last year as well. Overtime, and this is Alderman Grotti, this is what we had spoke of, but we're looking at decreasing that $1,000 just based on our new scheduling. There is, again, an asterisk with that because of staffing levels and the fluctuations, unpredictability with different critical incidents that come up and that have come up post even providing our predictions for this budgetary year. Portion of our overtime, and most do know this, but again, a portion of our overtime and or wages and salaries are reimbursed by the MEG unit and the school district. Wages temp help, we're decreasing that 13,000. However, that's being reallocated to a different part of our budget. And that encompasses our relief clerical staff members and administrative assistant members. Our health insurance, $26,000 decrease, and that's likely attributed to our Family Advantage Plan and overall just our employees' needs. The demographics are changing a little bit with some of our employees. Wages and building services. So in 2022, Chief Styka had kind of brought this out into a different line item, which reflects what the Department of Public Works does for our department. So it's nothing new, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that line item. Dental, we're looking at increasing that 2,600. That is to be a little bit closer with our projection for year end for this year. Retirement increasing at 51,000. Again, we had a prospective employee that we believed was going to be retiring this year. Likely we will see that retirement and actually 2 retirements next year. FICA increasing at 9,500. Again, all that's a reflection of all PD employees and DPW staff. Workers' comp, we are only increasing that $100, and HRA funding, we're decreasing that $500. Medical services. So in 2024, we increased that $700, and that was because of a change within our crime lab requirements and just holistically as a department looking at potentially increasing our blood kit usage for OWIs. This year, we are not requesting any changes or increases with that line item. Professional services, no increases for 2025. Last year, we had increased it 12,500 to reflect our additional training costs and some of the requirements of our staff attending continued education from a management and supervisory staff side of things. Heat, no change. 2 years ago and last year, we had some issues with our boiler. This year, we're seeing consistent numbers, so we're not changing that line item. And the overall buildings account, no changes to that. Matt?
So this slide concentrates on our equipment budget. One of the largest expenses outside of our personnel costs are vehicles and vehicle maintenance. This year, in both our vehicle maintenance account and even our equipment accounts, we've really seen the effects of the increase in pricing of everything. We're going to be over in the 2904 account this year for the vehicle maintenance and equipment. That is why we asked for an increase for 2025. We're currently postponing some of our current vehicle projects until next year just because of the cost increases. We have most of the projects ready to go, but we're going to be continuing with them in 2025. Computers will see a slight decrease. Equipment is going to be increased $4,500. Mainly that's just related to the cost of everything. 3018 is another equipment account. Much of that, or much of the evidence supplies come out of that account. Those have also gone up in price. Fuel, we're going to keep that the same. For some reason, I have no idea why we're going to hit that account right on budget this year, but with fuel costs, we're going to see, we should be right on point, and we're going to hopefully see that same amount spent next year. The 8003 account is our vehicle account. That is those are the funds we purchase or lease vehicles through. The significant decrease you see from last year or from 2024 to 2025 is partly related to the number of vehicles we're purchasing. This year we had to purchase, or we were scheduled to purchase 3 marked patrol vehicles, and next year we're only scheduled to purchase 2, and then the additional funds are used for the leasing budget. By the end of the year, we will have 4 leased vehicles, which amounts to about $30,000 per year. And if we were to purchase those vehicles, we wouldn't have been able to get them all at one time, and we'd be looking at upwards of probably $200,000 total request each year. So we're significantly saving money by leasing vehicles, and we've entered into a really good partnership with a local leasing company who monitors the value of the vehicles, and our leasing agreements were not locked into specific years or mileage, so they're helping us monitor the overall value and will assist us in finding the best time to turn them in and get the best value for them. So like Chief said, these were brought back out of borrowing for this year and will remain out of borrowing for next year. Any questions on that? I know there were all the lights before, but that's the explanation on the vehicle accounts. Traffic cameras and flock and verkada cameras. This year, or for next year, we're going to continue our agreement with Flock and continue with the number of cameras we have in the city. This year, we were able to add or keep $15,000 in the budget to expand our verkada traffic camera program. Our initial request was double that, but in order to help make the city budget, that was reduced. Because of the reduction, I wanted to, with the initial request, I was going to commit to 2 intersections. Because of the reduction, once we see what next year's costs are going to be, we'll have to evaluate where we can get the best bang for our buck and where we can get the most coverage. So at this point, I'm not ready to commit to a specific intersection. We have a couple in mind, but we'll wait to see what those costs come in at.
The 3402 is our training account. Registration fees, we have a fairly young contingent of officers. So training is essential, just in the nature of what we do, but especially when we have younger staff members. So we continue to be very progressive as a department. We've looked at, moving into from last year, looked at a lot of internal training opportunities. But for this year, there are no changes to our training budget. This line item facilitates all of our training registrations, as I said, as well as out-of-state expenses for attending training. Our wellness program, there are no changes for that line item. Again, as Deputy Chief Hanchek had mentioned earlier, we tried to be the recipient of a $200,000 grant to certainly help our department and the city. But we were not awarded that, unfortunately. Our K-9 program, there are no changes to that line item. This year, or moving into 2025, we will be purchasing a new K-9, and that will likely take place towards the mid to latter part of 2025.
The crossing guard program is a budgetary item that you will continue or have continued to see significant decreases in. That's due to a partnership that we developed with the Menasha Joint School District and having them cover additional intersections versus officers or CSOs taking on that responsibility. As it stands now, we are only looking at providing coverage for one intersection, which is Racine Street and 6th Street. The Community Service Officer Program, that's a program that we heavily rely on. The CSOs are able to take calls, some of which take significant amounts of time, such as animal bites. They're able to assist officers on crashes, assist motorist type calls, and found property type calls as well. As it stands now, CSOs are providing coverage 12 hours a day. The budget for 2025 is going to stay the same. However, we are able to incorporate a hourly rate change of $16 an hour, which will keep us competitive with neighboring jurisdictions.
Alderman Sevenick.
Just the last sentence you gave us. I know in the past I increased that amount. Are we still competitive with neighboring communities? What is Appleton paying? What is Neenah paying?
We are. So for an example, at the high end, Oshkosh PD is paying $19.15 an hour. Appleton is also paying upwards of $16.48 an hour. So what I did is I took an average of all the surrounding agencies, which came to approximately $16 an hour. That kind of put us in that midpoint area to stay competitive and still draw people into our program as well.
Good. We'll relook at that next year for sure.
The auxiliary program, again, is another program that we depend on quite a bit, predominantly for special events. That program also is not going to see any budgetary increases for 2025, and as well is going to see an hourly rate change up to $16 an hour.
Our jail fees have decreased by $2,000 based upon a review of the past few years. From 2011, we have seen a continuous decline. In reference to the animal fees are the same as 2024. In an evaluation, we may need to look to increase the budget as methods for animal pickup have changed throughout the years. So again, we're just kind of evaluating that. Two things that I'd like to highlight in reference to animals this year that came in July, there were 2 investigations in reference to hoarding animal cases that left some significant monetary value. July 10th, we began an investigation in relation to animal neglect. As a reference to that case, 34 cats were removed and located at the Fox Valley Humane Association. 64 cats were removed by Saving Strays Rescue. And then again, 7 days later, we had an investigation on another property in which 50 cats were initially reported and 65 cats were removed and located by Fox Valley Humane Association. With that 99 cats that Fox Valley Humane Association had taken in, they accrued a cost of $83,370. A special assessment was put forth in reference to these 2 properties to reduce some of that investigative cost.
Alderman Sevenick.
I bring this up mostly every year. I still have a issue with people that don't get their dog and cat license. I'm a dog owner, and when I read the police reports, I would say 99.9% of the time you tell them to go get one. So maybe I don't need one. If my dog, something happens, you guys just tell me go get one. And those of us who are being responsible for getting our dog license, I think that's unfair to those who know they need to get a dog license and don't. And I've said this on a few occasions, but I would hope that in the future you would take that issue more serious. And you might say, well, what's the big deal? But back in the 1980s, there were cases of rabies where I remember, I think it was like in 82 or something like that, where an individual kid had to have these shots in his stomach because of the dog that bit this person. They couldn't find the dog at first, and there was no license or tag or anything. Eventually they did, and I don't know if they had to cease the shots, but I just thought that was terrible for like a 13-year-old boy to have to go through. And I haven't heard of those kind of things, but I know at that time it came from Badger Highways in that area. There was a skunk or something that had bitten a dog, and they weren't sure if the dog had rabies or not. And But anyways, that's just a small reason, but I still have a problem with people not getting their license, and it just shows a total disrespect for the reason why we do.
Are there any questions this evening for the police department regarding their budget review? Alderman Rapella.
Thank you, Mayor. No, just that point about the crossing guards. I mean, the school just put it on there, so maybe we're saving the money from the police department, but then it just goes to the school, and then they increase their budget too. So either way, we're paying for that crossing guard. Either the police or the school, one of the two is paying for it. So it's not much of a savings for the city, for the total city.
So my understanding of their program is they're doing it with parapros, and so I am not an expert in terms of how they're budgeting those types of things, but based on initial conversations, my understanding was that they were trying to fit that into their current staffing time.
Okay.
To what degree that's still taking place, I'm not sure, but that was something that they were looking into.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Chief.
Any other questions for the police department regarding their budget proposal or presentation? Seeing none, thank you all very much for taking time out of your evening to come give this presentation. We appreciate it. And next we'll transition to item F, which is Attorney, Personnel, and Clerk's Office. So we'll hand it over to Attorney Struve. Thank you. All right, and we're going to proceed with item F, which is the attorney, personnel, and clerk budget review. So I'm going to hand it over to Attorney Struve.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the opportunity to present our budget this evening. Our attorney, HR, and city clerk's office team is comprised of 5 positions. City attorney, then HR is our HR manager, Kimberly Cardoza, our payroll clerk / HR admin assistant, Allie Ross, and she is that better, Mr. Taylor? Thank you. And she is 50% HR, 50% finance. Lastly, the clerk's office, but not least, City Clerk Snyder, as well as our newest hire, Deputy City Clerk, Admin Assistant to both Mayor and me, Lydia Rhodes. So I'd just like to start out by telling you about some of our highlights for the year. 2024 was the first year of our newly implemented salary study. If you recall, in order to implement the study this year, Council approved placing the employees on the schedule at the step that provided at least a 2% increase for all employees. In addition, no step increases were given last year due to the cost of that implementation process. And this year, to highlight, already built into the budget is a proposed 2% cost of living adjustment for all non-represented staff. And we did see through the union contract process, there is that 2% for represented employees there as well. Second, I'd like to highlight this was a huge huge year for elections in terms of the clerk's office. Not only was there a mayoral election, but also a pretty unprecedented presidential election with Kaya's first year, Clerk Snyder's first year or months to have undertaken such a big task as city clerk. And I would just like to note she handled this with such grace. And it was a huge kudos to Clerk Snyder for such a success in terms of the both elections. Third, the police union contract, echoing sentiments that Chief spoke to earlier this evening. I can't emphasize how great the support was from our internal team, Chair Grotti, Mayor, Finance Department, and HR Department. Lastly, the Muni Code process, and this will continue into the early 2025 year, but please look out for the next steps on December 2nd, 2024, for the Administration Committee meeting. Next, I'd just like to show you some of our favorite things at City Hall, and it is the people that truly make it what is such a special place to work day in and day out. Our Halloween this year was quite hilarious. The theme was the letter of your first name. You had to choose a costume. So if you can see the K's up there, were Kit Kats, and Lori Fulser was the Mona Lisa. It was pretty fantastic.
What's the one in the center there? The tall guy.
The mayor?
It was a mayor.
Also, one of our most favorite days at City Hall is Bring Your Dog to Work Day. And most recently, today actually, is the start of the Secret Santa process. So employees will fill out a list of their favorite things and toss those into a bin, and the next 3, 4, or 5 weeks will be Secret Santa excitement. Okay, getting down to business. First, I'd like to start with the city attorney budget, and beginning on page 191, overall there is a slight, I believe, 1% increase to the city attorney portion of the budget. I have 2 asks. One is a legal services increase of $2,000. Typical, I looked back at the last 5 to 7 years, and a typical ask for that line item is $10,000. It's currently this year at $8,000. So that's due to, again, the norm and some anticipated costs for the upcoming 2025 year. Secondly, computers and technology, there was an increase from $0 to $1,300 this year, and that's due to a new PC for 2025. Any questions for the city attorney budget? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Page 192 will show municipal court. Now, there was a slight increase, about $420, and this impacts the admin fee or the building use fee. That increased about $200 from last year, in addition to court operations for next year, $220 increase there. So 3.2% total for the municipal court budget. Any questions there? Okay. Moving on to property insurance, also on page 192, this just shows the general fund share of the property and liability insurance. There was no change from last year. Then moving to page 164, I apologize, Alderman Ropella, going backwards just for a brief moment. Page 164, this will show property and liability insurance, 5103 through 5113. You may have recalled our recent MPIC renewal. Storage tank will be upcoming renewal. That would be Alliant. They're our broker for that insurance, and CIVMIC as well. Last year, there was a resolution for this year and last year, that renewal. And so those costs, a total insurance cost anyway of the 6.8% increase. Any questions on insurance? The next item would be page 166, and just highlighting that we do have a self-funded dental. There is no change to this fund as well, this budget as well. Moving on to human resources. So starting on page 196, there was a brief decrease in the wages in addition to overtime. That was the reduction based on based on staffing in terms of the retirement that we had earlier this year for our payroll clerk / HR admin assistant. Then total employer contributions, there's about a 12.5% decrease there, and that reflects benefits changes for employees. Then moving down to the medical and management, also on page 196, just highlighting a slight reduction in the medical line item, that fund is used for employment screenings, physicals, DOT tests, and whatnot. That just shows the actual usage. And following that would be the management line item. A slight decrease there, again, reflecting the actual usage of that budget.
Alderman Sevenick.
How is that a decrease? It's the same.
It's $500.
I must be looking at the wrong thing then. Under management, right?
Yep, so there was just a slight
2106.
$500 decrease.
I'm looking at the wrong one then.
That's $15,500.
Yeah.
And that's down to 15,000.
Okay.
So it's down $500.
So we used 12,500 and yet we still have 2-3 more months to add or something?
That's right.
Okay. So it's $500 only difference.
That's right, yep, just a slight $500 reduction there.
Okay.
Moving on to page 197, you'll see a reduction for the computer and technology line item, and that just reflects that there are no replacements needed this year. And then lastly, our wellness fund, we're asking for an increase of $1,000 there. That's due to increased interest in some employee wellness training opportunities, but also to reflect the actual cost of food. This line item funds our employee appreciation luncheon. It also funds some of the additional training opportunities, again, that are made available for staff, for department heads, when there is an interest in an opportunity for training, when there is a wellness, a relevant wellness, I guess, aspect to that training, if you will. The next slide, just wanted to highlight the fun that we did have this year at our Employee Appreciation Luncheon. On the upper right-hand corner, you'll see Todd Drew, our health sanitarian, and also the item for employees this year. If you recall, last year, Kimberly had chosen, our HR manager, Cardoza, had chosen the Benko boxes as the benefit to employees for the year, and those were meant to support healthy foods, bringing healthy foods to work, snacks and whatnot. This year, her focus was on drinking water. So all of these logos that you can see are made up of stickers, and they are dishwasher safe stickers to be placed on water bottles or coffee mugs. And if you can see, they are pretty cool to be able to show off the awesome things that Menasha has to offer, not only in the building, but, taking water bottles to the gym and wherever staff travel. So I do have 8 envelopes for council after the meeting this evening. Sticker is here for you this evening to show your support for Menasha. Any questions on the HR budget? Okay, thank you. Then I will turn it over to Clerk Snyder for the remaining portion.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am excited to participate in the budget review process by sharing the clerk's office and elections budgets. Starting with the clerk's office budget, you'll notice that things haven't changed very much, largely just reflective of renewed costs, starting with employer contributions for employee benefits. There is an increase here which reflects a change to our personnel, our clerk's office staff, and opting into those employee benefits. We additionally had a qualifying life event, so we do see an increase there. Moving down to the management line item, there is a decrease here. This is from the Muni Code payments that we issued this year. That payment expense is now made part of the Global IT Fund, so that's been moved over there, and additionally, I believe, is decreased after our first year with them. Next, there is a change to the postage line item budget. There is an increase there due to expected increases to postage. We did see 2 increases from USPS in 2024, so we're expecting to have at least 1, if not 2, in 2025, and are anticipating that cost. Towards computer and technology budget items, there is a decrease there because there is no need for a PC replacement. The clerk's office replaced each of its PCs in the last 2 years, so that is additionally reduced. Any questions I can answer about the clerk's office budget?
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. 2106. Management under professional services is zeroed out. Could you explain that, please?
Yes.
What
so
it is
that-
and why it's zeroed out, sorry.
Yep, so that is accounted for by Unicode. That expense was transitioned into the global IT fund, so that's no longer under the clerk's office budget, which is why it's reflected as zeroed out for 2025.
So that cost has shifted to 2907, in-house infotech service.
No, that is in the IT fund, which I believe Jennifer will be covering later.
Okay, thank you.
Towards elections, similar changes here, largely due to personnel changes. Otherwise, we see some reductions due to fewer elections in 2025. Starting with temp help wages, we see a pretty significant reduction, around 55% here. That's because we have half as many elections in 2025 as we did in 2024, and we're expecting reduced staffing at each of those elections because there should be reduced turnout compared to this presidential election we've had last. Similar to the clerk's office budget, employer contributions have increased. Again, this is due to a change in personnel, requiring greater contributions there due to opting into employee benefits. The vending and services line item relates to furnishing meals for poll workers. This is something that the city of Menasha does at each general election. Because there is no general election in 2025, we have not budgeted for that. Other services that we're looking at here include printing and publishing. There will be fewer building rentals for the elections next year, again, as we only have 2 instead of 4. However, we are expecting to have printing and publishing costs. As I'm sure you're aware, we will no longer be able to use University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, the Fox Cities campus, as a polling place after 2025. And so upon replacing that polling place, we intend to send postcards enumerating the new polling place for affected voters. That should happen in summer of 2025. And so that line item accounts for publishing, printing, and postage costs there. Postage here, additionally, like the clerk's office, we anticipate rate increases from USPS. So that line item does increase to accommodate those changes. In 2025, we can expect for certain a spring election on April 1st, and if necessary, a spring primary on February 18th. But we won't know whether that's necessary until January 7th. Are there any questions about the elections budget?
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. When are the Badger books scheduled to be replaced?
Good question. The Badger books are largely a cloud-based software, so they do get updates. I understand that we're going to be looking beyond 2026 for a replacement. I'm not sure exactly what year they'll be due, but it would not be part of the 2025 budget.
Is that something that's managed by the Wisconsin Election Commission?
Yes, the Wisconsin Elections Commission manages the software application, but purchase of the physical hardware is through a separate company also based in Madison.
Yes. Do they have recommendations about the purchase of updated hardware?
Yes, they keep us
My
appraised
more
of.
specific
Yes,
question.
they keep us appraised of those needs. Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Rapello?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious, where's going to be the new polling place instead of UW-Fox?
As we've just gotten through an unprecedented presidential election, I've not yet begun investigating that. We're still in the process of reconciling this election, but after I get through that sometime late December, I will begin investigating that, and I will keep you all updated on what I find.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions for Clerk Snyder regarding the election portion of the budget? All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
If there are no final questions for Attorney Struve or Clerk Snyder, we'll move on to G, which is Finance, Assessor, Information Technology, Debt Services, and Director Sassman will be getting set up here shortly to give that presentation.